The fireworks were already echoing somewhere far away when I realized the silence in my apartment was louder than any explosion in the sky. The clock on my phone glowed 11:57 p.m., the numbers cold and unforgiving, counting down to a new year I never asked for. I was alone, sitting on the edge of my bed, wearing the same sweater I had slept in for 3 nights straight, convinced that this New Year's Eve would pass like every other lonely milestone in my life. I had no idea that in just a few minutes, a single knock at midnight would change everything I believed about endings, beginnings, and the man I feared the most, my CEO. Before the story pulls you deeper, take a moment right now. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and unexpected moments that can change a life, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us we're never as alone as we think. That year had taken everything from me, piece by piece, without mercy. I had moved to the city with dreams that once burned bright but now flickered like a dying candle. My job was the only thing holding my life together, and even that felt like it was hanging by a thread. I worked long hours at the company, invisible to most, surviving on deadlines and cheap coffee. My colleagues left early for holidays, laughing about parties and family dinners, while I volunteered for overtime because there was nowhere else to go. Home was just 4 walls and a window that faced another building, and silence that pressed against my chest every night. The CEO of our company was a name spoken carefully, almost fearfully. He was known for his brilliance, his discipline, and his distance. People said he noticed everything and forgave nothing. I had seen him only a few times in meetings from afar, always composed, always unreachable, like someone living in a different world. The idea that he even knew my name felt impossible. To me, he represented pressure, expectations, and the constant fear of failure that followed me everywhere. New Year's Eve arrived quietly. No invitations. No messages. My phone stayed silent except for automated reminders and promotional notifications. I tried to distract myself by cleaning the apartment, then by scrolling endlessly, but every post of smiling faces and champagne glasses made the emptiness heavier. When night fell, I turned off the lights and sat by the window, watching distant fireworks paint the sky in colors that never reached me. At 11:59 p.m., I whispered a promise to myself that I would survive another year, even if that was all I could do. That was when the knock came. At first, I thought it was part of the fireworks, some echo in the building. But then it came again, firm and deliberate, cutting through the silence like a heartbeat. My stomach tightened with fear. No one ever came to my door, especially not at that hour. As the clock turned to midnight and the city erupted in celebration, I stood frozen, torn between hope and dread. When I finally opened the door, the sight in front of me didn't make sense. Standing there, framed by the dim hallway light and faint snow drifting in from outside, was my CEO. Not the distant figure from boardrooms and company emails, but a man in a simple coat, holding a plain brown paper bag, his expression calm yet heavy with something unspoken. The world outside was celebrating, but in that moment, time felt suspended. He didn't step inside right away. He simply stood there, as if unsure whether he was welcome, as if this moment mattered more than any deal he had ever signed. I remember thinking that powerful people weren't supposed to look uncertain. Yet there it was, written across his face. That night unfolded in a way I could never have imagined. He didn't come with speeches or authority. He came with presence. The bag he carried held simple food, warm and homemade, and the realization struck me harder than the cold air rushing in from the hall. Someone had thought about me. Someone had known I would be alone. As the minutes passed, the noise of fireworks faded into the background, replaced by a quiet understanding that didn't need words. He shared, in his own restrained way, that he knew more about his employees than they realized. He knew who stayed late, who volunteered for extra shifts, who never talked about family. He knew because he had once been that person, alone in a city that didn't care whether he survived or not. The weight I had been carrying for months began to loosen, not all at once, but enough for me to breathe. That night wasn't about romance or grand gestures. It was about recognition. About being seen when you least expect it. About someone powerful choosing compassion over convenience. As the hours slipped by, I learned that success had cost him deeply. His life was filled with achievements but hollowed out by sacrifices he never spoke of. He admitted, quietly and without self-pity, that he had spent many New Years alone himself, believing that was the price of ambition. Seeing my name on the company holiday attendance list had reminded him of who he used to be, and he couldn't let the year begin without changing something. In the days that followed, everything felt different. Not magically perfect, but lighter. At work, I noticed a shift. I was given opportunities one had never dared to ask for, mentorship instead of pressure, guidance instead of fear. He didn't single me out publicly, didn't turn kindness into spectacle. He simply showed up, again and again, in small, meaningful ways. More importantly, something changed inside me. That night rewrote the story I had been telling myself, that I was invisible, disposable, alone. I started to believe that my presence mattered, that my effort had value beyond survival. I reached out to people I had shut out. I allowed myself to imagine a future that wasn't defined by loneliness. Winter slowly gave way to spring, and the city softened. I found myself smiling more, walking taller, daring to hope. The memory of that knock at midnight stayed with me, not as a fairy tale, but as proof that humanity can appear when you least expect it, sometimes wearing the face you fear the most. Now, as another year begins, I think about how close I was to giving up that night. How easily I could have ignored the knock, stayed hidden in my pain. And I wonder how many people around us are waiting for a moment like that, waiting to be seen, waiting for kindness to interrupt their loneliness. If this story is touching something inside you, if it reminds you of a night you spent alone or a moment that changed you, please take a second to engage. Like the video, share it with someone who needs comfort, and subscribe for more stories that come from the heart. Your support keeps these stories alive. Before this story ends, I have a special request. Please comment below and tell us where you were last New Year's Eve, or who you wish had knocked on your door. Your words might be the connection someone else is searching for. I didn't spend that New Year alone after all. Not because the world suddenly became kind, but because one person chose to be. And that choice echoed far beyond midnight, far beyond fireworks, into a life that finally felt worth living.